Hello. It is the evening of January 9th, 2020. Hope you're doing well. We're going to just get started here. Obviously, this is being done in the midst of an experience. Aren't we all in the midst of an experience? uh, but we're going to talk about love again. And what it means to be a servant of love, uh, to really, we're like really getting down to the nitty-gritty with this. So it turns out that all of this work that we've been doing for however many months or years or decades, as far as basically putting our ego into its proper position, and it has a proper position, but it's not in the driver's seat of this whole thing. But it wants to be in the driver's seat. And anyway, it turns out there's very good reason why we needed to do that beyond ourselves, beyond our own personal advantages, maybe. I don't like that word. The effects that will have on our lives personally and the people around us by extension. But it turns out that eventually, if we have signed up to allow love to move through us, well, eventually that is going to call on us to I'm sorry, guys, the only word that's coming to me is execute. I know it's not exactly the proper word, but right now, in the midst of this particular experience that I'm having, it feels as though the ego is undergoing a kind of execution. Now, we stated that the ego has a proper place and things, but it's really calling on us now to leave behind any and all traces of those things having to do with ego that don't allow love to move through us freely and do what it needs to do. So often, our ego, our pride, even not in a blown up, ridiculous way, but so often our ego and our pride, it blocks situations from blossoming and growing. If we would just allow love to do that. Now, it's really easy to say, oh yeah, I'm going to let love do the thing. But like we said, eventually this time comes where we realize, oh, all of those times where I needed to really work on controlling. There's that word controlling, which we also don't like to use. But when it comes to the ego, these words are appropriate because our ego has so overtaken this whole experience. And And it's like when you're a parent and you have children, well, some of your children may, or maybe one of your children is, you say something to them one time and you give them that look, and that's it. They know. You just give them a look. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to talk about consequences. You just look at them and let them know what it is, and it's done. Now the ego is like that other kid. The ego is like that kid that's kind of hard-headed and not a bad kid, just doesn't understand that you're a child and you can't run the show. And so for that child, there's got to be more firmness. It's just a different style of training and disciplining. Disciplining not meaning punishing, meaning training and teaching. It's a different style. So anyway, so that's the thing. So even in situations, we'll put this in a practical way now. Even in situations where yesterday we would have stood up for ourselves and said, maybe somebody comes at us and maybe even accuses us of something, and they're 100% wrong, totally wrong about it. They misunderstood, something was miscommunicated, some wires got crossed somewhere along the way, something happened, but here we are in this situation, and we can state, there's nothing wrong with stating the fact. Oh, okay, so you're under this impression. Well, here actually is the truth of it. Well, say we're in a situation where the person's like, no, it's what I said it was, and shame on you for the thing that I'm accusing you of. Now we can, up to this point, we can have been as kind and patient and loving and even generous, saying, I understand how you could have that impression, blah, blah, blah. We've used all the tools in our toolbox, okay? And nothing has worked, because at the end of the day, we're still being reprimanded. Now, that's just one example. We're just using this example to show to what extent we have to release ego. We could get fired up and say, now you listen here. What are you, deaf? See? And we now all of a sudden, see, the climate changes. The atmosphere changes. What happened? A second ago, it was all good. But now we're getting fired up. Now that ego, it's the ego part of us now that is like, no. And maybe someone out there is going to say, no, that's not really true. And, everybody has the right to feel. This is my own experience. This is my own, I'm just a person here speaking in a recording device. According to my experience, once it becomes a battle of wits, he said, she said, this, that, blah, 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 I'm going to win. See, love's not about winning petty little misunderstandings between two specks of dust on this speck of dust planet, okay? Love is not about that. Love is just about bringing it together. Peace, harmony, unity. It's not about, but see, it can shift, because we're so used to standing up for ourselves. We're told to stand up for ourselves, and to some extent you want to stand up for yourself. If you're being mistreated and it's really having a detrimental effect on your life, well, a change needs to happen. But when it comes to some of these other types of situations that come up, we're called on now to say, okay, peel it all the way back. What's important right now? Is your pride important? Is your reputation important? Is that the most important thing? Not that it's not important on some level, but when we get right down to the very bottom line, what's the most important thing? Love. That's the answer for those of us who have said, okay, I want to sign up for this thing. Okay, well, then that means whatever is going through your mind right now to win this has to go out the window. That is not easy. And whatever situation it is, where ordinarily, even if we've been working on the ego thing for years, we're still dealing with it. There's still elements and traces, bits of it, however, whatever. We don't know how to measure this, but, and it's like, we're going to use a really crude example here. Have you ever had food poisoning? For those of us who've had the pleasure, not pleasure, of that, by the end of it, oh my goodness, when you're done with the vomiting and everything, or you think you are, you're like, there can't be anything left in me. I've been at this for 5, 6, 7 hours. There can't be anything left in me that's harmful. Well, lo and behold, there you go again. You're still doing your thing, and you're like, oh, you feel like like you want to just pass out, especially if it happens in the middle of the night, which it often does. Like, oh, geez, Lord, no. But that's what this feels like right now, as I feel like I'm in the throes of it. That these last bits, and not to even imply that, oh, look at me, I'm at the end of this, but it feels like that. It feels like the last bits, however long that might take. This might take 5 years. So we don't say last bits as if to imply, oh, I'm near perfect. No. But it just feels that way. It feels like a lot of the ego stuff has been worked on, but whatever is still left over, these last couple of hours of the wee hours of the morning that still needs to come out of my system, is excruciating. I am exhausted right now, physically exhausted, just mentally dizzy. The whole enchilada. Just speaking of food poisoning, right? But anyway, that's what we're talking about here. Just if we are if we're trying to allow love to move through us more and more, we get to this place where the ego just, it almost feels like the ego is dying. And in a sense, it is dying as to the position that it's held for so long. That has to end. And it can be renewed as what it's supposed to be. But so in that sense, the ego on that level is dying, and it feels that way. So if you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you just, in this, everything we just described, and just take heart, know that, this assignment, if you want to call it that, is tough. It's hard, and we're not whining about it, because that's exactly what it has to be to get the job done. If somebody's going into training, we don't want to say military, but that's kind of what came into my head right now. We don't really, well, anyway, if you're going in any kind of training for a purpose, it's not going to be easy. No, you can't even say that. I got to say military. Because if you're training to perform on that level, or to, you see, that's how tired I am right now, guys. My head is spinning. I told you I'm dizzy right now. But you get the point that, if we're serious about this, then it's not always going to be, nor sometimes it's going to be more difficult than others. Just put it that way. And just know that, you know. I hope this made sense. I just had to really get that out. I had to get it out because, I really cried. I'm a crybaby. I really cried earlier because it was just, it's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy. Trying to, this is going long, so we gotta wrap this up soon. It's heavy trying to renew ourselves, basically, and this work is enjoyable and it's difficult. So anyway, I hope that's been encouraging to someone out there. Really, really do. I really, really do. So as always, we want to wish you much love now. Good night.